Hello and welcome to this special edition of The Top Story. I'm Qi Zhi. In today's program, we'll look at Chinese President Xi Jinping's state visit to Malaysia, exploring its implications and significance for both nations and beyond. President Xi Jinping began his visit by attending a welcome ceremony by Malaysian King Sultan Ibrahim. The two heads of state then sat down for talks, where the Chinese leader pledged efforts to work with Malaysia to build a high-level strategic community with a shared future and start a new golden 50 years in bilateral ties. He called on both sides to follow the path toward modernization together. President Xi also said China is willing to deepen cooperation in culture, tourism and education. He said China supports Malaysia's ASEAN chairmanship and is ready to implement the three global initiatives that aim to address global development and security challenges while promoting mutual appreciation of civilizations. Sultan Ibrahim said he believes President Xi Jinping's visit will elevate relations on all fronts. He added that Malaysia is committed to supporting the future development of China-ASEAN ties. Later, President Xi had a meeting with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. He said China-Malaysia ties are ushering in a new golden era, adding that he's ready to work with Anwar to boost the high-level and strategic development of China-Malaysia community with a shared future. The two leaders also witnessed the signing of a number of cooperation documents. China Media Group and Malaysian media Astro Awani had an opportunity to sit down with Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim to discuss the significance of President Xi Jinping's visit, regional dynamics, and Malaysia's role in an increasingly complex global landscape.
Bilateral relations have grown steadily in recent years. Last November, Your Excellency made your third official visit to China during our term, coinciding with the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties. Now, with President Xi Jinping's upcoming visit to Malaysia, how would you assess its significance?
I believe President Xi Jinping's visit is not just a matter of protocol. It marks a new peak in the friendly relations between our two countries across all areas. Malaysia and ASEAN advocate for building good relations, upholding neutrality and mutual respect. There are no issues between us, and I don't want to treat other people's problems as if they were ours. We believe that our relationship with China should not only continue, but also be further elevated.
Malaysia is often seen as a middle power in global affairs. Given rising geopolitical tensions, including U.S. tariff policies and economic uncertainties, how can Malaysia maintain its strategic balance while fostering cooperation with both China and the U.S.?
Malaysia's trade and investment ties with the U.S. remain strong. Our semiconductor exports to the U.S. have reached $6 billion. But our principle is to promote free trade, and we welcome investment. However, this should not come at our expense, because Malaysia is a free, independent, and sovereign nation. Our policies will not waver. We are open. That is our stance. And ASEAN countries happen to share the same view. That is why we stand with the Chinese government for the well-being of our people and for our national economic interests, as well as for the overall development and stability of our country. We should not and do not need to be constrained by any side. So far, we refuse to succumb to such pressure. Our attitude is that we cooperate with those who treat us well. I must emphasize that although China is a major power with a strong economy and formidable military strength, we have never felt any sense of trouble or pressure from it. China has always treated us as an equal country. We engage in mutual consultation and respect each other, which means a lot to me. We engage in talks on everything. Of course, in any bilateral relationship, there will always be some points of agreement and some issues that may cause discontent, but we always resolve them through friendly consultation.
Your Excellency, reflecting on 50 years of diplomatic relations, what would you consider the most outstanding achievement in China-Malaysia cooperation?
This vote goes beyond the 50 years since our formal diplomatic ties. In fact, our friendly exchanges dated back much further, with a history of hundreds of years. As you all know, over the past 2 years, we have been working to enhance our foreign relations. First, by strengthening trade and investment cooperation among ASEAN countries. Then, with our neighboring countries, including Japan and South Korea. But our ties with China are even closer, because China has always shown stronger willingness and sincerity in cooperation. We've seen growth in bilateral investment and trade volume. There's also been increased collaboration between universities and more opportunities in technical and vocational education and training. Moreover, cultural exchanges and tourism have also seen obvious improvement. Progress in all these areas has greatly benefited us. It has improved our infrastructure and driven the development of sectors like catering and hospitality. Especially in technology and industrial sectors, we've witnessed the rise of major projects, such as the two countries' Twin Parks initiative and technological cooperation projects like the one between Geely and Proton. The size and depth of these major projects far exceed what we've seen in the past.
Global trade faces growing setbacks, but also new opportunities. As ASEAN chair, how can Malaysia and the region leverage these shifts for the benefit of both Malaysians and broader ASEAN?
There is no denying that tariffs have had a negative impact. As a trading nation, Malaysia has always believed in free trade. When the tariffs dispute happens, whatever reason might be, it's going to hurt us. We must stay rational. But at the ASEAN Trade Ministers and Finance Ministers meetings last week, we stressed that we should seek opportunities from our own strength instead of blaming someone else for a problem they created. We can further strengthen intra-Asian trade and investment cooperation, including cooperation with friendly countries such as China. ASEAN countries also have great growth potential. Of course, we will not suspend consultations and negotiations with the United States, and we hope that trade will be back to the right track. About our relationship with China. As neighboring countries, China and Malaysia enjoy smooth and trouble-free relations. China's economic development can bring benefits to Malaysia, so I'm taking a pragmatic position. As long as the other country treats us with kindness, we should respond with even greater kindness.
You've noted similarities between President Xi's governance approach and Malaysia's Madani vision. Has this shared perspective helped both nations navigate today's complex global challenges?
Dalam pertemuan saya dengan Presiden Xi,
During my meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, I mentioned and even asked why his thoughts are so different and unique. It is because President Xi focuses on cultural exchange, civilization, mutual learning, and shared prosperity. This kind of demeanor is not commonly seen in political figures of this era. This aligns with the vision of Malaysia Madani, which also emphasizes values, humanitarianism, and a global perspective. It presents a spirit dedicated to building civilization. President Xi's response was very interesting. He said, "Indeed, we need to develop the economy, but human development cannot be separated from history, culture, and civilization." We often discuss topics such as the economy, technology, digitalization, and artificial intelligence. Of course, these are extremely important, but we also need to have a humanistic spirit. For example, in Malaysia, we are also actively promoting the dialogue between Islam and Confucianism. This has received positive recognition from President Xi Jinping. When he talked about the Malaysia Madani concept, he specifically mentioned the common values of Islamic and Confucian civilizations. This perception impressed me deeply. Only great leaders and thinkers can have such foresight and not just see the simple material needs.
That's Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim speaking with China Media Group and Malaysian media outlet Asro Awani. China says it hopes President Xi Jinping's visit to Malaysia will help in the building of a high-level strategic community with a shared future. Zhao Yunfei spoke with business leaders and scholars about China-Malaysia ties.
Chinese President Xi Jinping's state visit is considered a step towards closer ties between the two emerging economies in the Asia-Pacific. This is the Chinese president's second visit to Malaysia in 12 years. China says it marks an important milestone as the two countries strive to build regional peace and development.
He truly, from his statement, reflect the importance of solid partnerships and the trust that we built over the years. And I think it's very, very impressive and touching.
China has been Malaysia's top trading partner for 16 consecutive years. Last year alone, bilateral trade reached a record $212 billion. Infrastructure is a major cooperation field as the two countries align development strategies. In addition to the projects, there's also the bond between the people.
We are at a good place to be able to talk about how Malaysia is a great example of an Asian nation that has been able to do with its various challenges but achieve some balance out of that. I think if Malaysia and China come up with a strong statement about how we build resilient communities, that would resonate very well.
With the Chinese president's visit, Beijing says it hopes to set up political and security collaboration, increase mutual learning, and strengthen coordination on international issues.
That was Zhao Yunfei in Kuala Lumpur. For more on President Xi's visit, Wang Mangmang spoke to Chair Professor Rong Ying at Sichuan University and Jiang Ga, Professor of Economics at University of International Business and Economics.
This year marks the 51st anniversary of the establishment of bilateral relations between these two countries. And now we are at an important crossroads to reflect on the journey that we traveled together. And of course, looking forward, President Xi has already hailed the next 50 years of development, the new golden 50 years. I want to get your thoughts on this, Professor Rong. First of all, there's two parts to my question for you. How would you assess the current state of relation between the two countries? Where do you see this developed?
Well, the current state of the relationship between China and Malaysia, I would say, excellent. And we have seen the opening remarks by the two leaders, the Prime Minister, and in welcome his guest, President Xi, and also President Xi in responding his these greetings. We see such a kind of closeness, such a kind of shared commitment to further deepening and expanding the cooperation. That is very much a testament to the reality where not only the past 50 years, we're celebrating the 51st anniversary, but the relationship has a long, long history. Over 1,000 years, if you talk about culturally, historically. But also, I think the past decades when China and Malaysia, before we were fighting our independence, difficult times, the overseas Chinese, Malaysians have extended their support for China, and of course Chinese too. So that relationship has a long history, deep rooted in history and culture, but more importantly, as we're looking ahead, the next 50 years, the next 5 decades, the commitment shared again by the two leadership, but I think also very much by the people to further deepening and expanding the relationship for the good of the two peoples, but also importantly for the region and the world at large.
And strong traditional cultural ties between these two countries. And they're also very closely tied by trade and investment, the economic activities. Now, of course, they're trying to elevate that relationship to boost more exchanges. And we know that China has been Malaysia's largest trading partner for 16 consecutive years. And Malaysia is an important participant of the Belt and Road Initiative. So going forward now, Professor Gung, what are your views into the future cooperation in the economic aspect of these two countries?
Well, I think Malaysia is increasingly becoming a very important trading partner of China. Bilateral trade has exceeded $200 billion last year, about $200 billion last year. And I would say that looking forward, probably this relationship is even going to be taken to the next level, given that China has massive investment in Malaysia, with the Belt and Road projects going on. And I think, in the opening remark by Prime Minister Anwar, I want to highlight one thing he mentioned. He said, aside from all these cooperations, he said probably more importantly, we should be talking about cooperation talking about civilizational cooperation. This is actually a very unique concept brought out by Prime Minister Anwar. He's been talking about this for quite some time. As a matter of fact, there was this conference called Islamic and Confucius Cooperation Conference every year. Actually, I attended last year. I think this is a very unique concept. Malaysia sits at the crossroad between the Islamic culture and sort of the East Asia Confucius culture. And Malaysia wants to play an important role in bridging these two civilizations and also cooperation between these civilizations. And he said, nobody's talking about it, but Prime Minister Anwar is indeed talking about it. I think this is actually a very interesting concept. This is also a very promising concept, and this is something that definitely China is very interested in carrying forward. This a very important idea about bridging the two civilizations together and cooperating between the two civilizations.
That was Chair Professor Rong Ying at Sichuan University and John Gan, Professor of Economics at University of International Business and Economics, sharing their insights on the Chinese president's visit to Malaysia. China Media Group has hosted a people-to-people exchange event in Kuala Lumpur during President Xi's visit. Malaysian Deputy Prime Minister Ahmed Zahid Hamidi sent a congratulatory letter hailing CMG as a bridge to promote mutual understanding between the two countries. During the event, Malaysian media outlets aired the classic quotes by Xi Jinping, a multilingual TV program featuring ancient Chinese quotes used by President Xi in his speeches and articles. Guests attending the event shared expectations for the Chinese president's visit.
Malaysians are very excited, and of course that President Xi Jinping is held in high regards by Malaysians in general.
We are actually excited, and it's timely. They show the importance and also the relationship between China and Malaysia. With the visit, it will enhance the cooperation and also stabilize the whole region, the economy.
I think President Xi's visit will certainly enhance the relationship between China and Malaysia and also ASEAN. Together, hopefully we can build a better future for mutual prosperity.
China and Malaysia have mutual visa exemptions. Chinese visitors made more than 3.7 million trips to the Southeast Asian country last year. China is Malaysia's largest trading partner. Trade between the two countries exceeded $200 billion in 2024. We asked Dr. Azmi Hassan at Malaysia's National Council of Professors about the significance of maintaining close economic and cultural exchanges.
China is our biggest trading partner. It's been 15 years. I think the most important thing is that between the two leaders of China and Malaysia, mutual trust. I think it's very, very critical here. Mutual trust between the two leaders create opportunities. Even though there are headwinds, I think we can work. The AI, I think China can offer us quite high technology. In Malaysia, there are Malay ethnic, there are also Chinese ethnic, and also Indian ethnic. These are three major ethnic. I think there's a reason why millions of Chinese tourists, they feel very comfortable in Malaysia, because Malaysian as a whole, I think we are adaptable to different ethnic, cultural differences. I think the exchanges from people to people exchanges, and more interestingly, yes, China is a very big country, but China will never take an inch of Malaysia's sovereignty. I think that's very, very critical here. I think the mutual trust in terms of cultural, I think we expect more Chinese tourists. And me as personally, I think we welcome Chinese tourists come so that the cultural exchanges between these two small country, Malaysia, and bigger country of China can be enhanced.
That was Kuala Lumpur-based Dr. Azmi Hassan. You're listening to a special edition of The Top Story, where we focus on Chinese President Xi Jinping's state visit to Malaysia. The bond between China and Malaysia runs deep. Now we'll hear it in the beating of drums. Across the campus of Tsinghua University in Beijing, a group of young people is performing the 24 festive drums, a unique art form born in Malaysia. Some are from China, some from Malaysia, but together they're writing a new chapter of friendship, using rhythm as their language and a culture as their bridge. Now, here is Guo Yan at Tsinghua University, where the rhythm of drums tells a story of unity, tradition, and shared heritage.
Barefoot in deep red tunics and black sashes, the drummers of Tsinghua's 24 festive drums team stand in formation. They strike the face, sides, and rims of the drums with powerful energy. The Tsinghua team was founded in November 2024. It now has 30 members, 20 from Malaysia, 10 from China. Some are seasoned performers, others are just starting. But they beat in sync with a shared passion for rhythm, unity, and cultural connection.
The first time I saw the drumming, I thought it was super cool and really powerful. I instantly loved it.
One of our performances was called Resonance. That's what we hope to share with the audience. This energy of unity, beating as one.
I think this is a powerful example of cultural fusion. Our ancestors came from China. We developed the drums in Malaysia, and now we're bringing them back.
Malaysian student Eng Wei Dong, now pursuing a master's at Tsinghua, explains the meaning behind this performance.
It blends Chinese solar terms, calligraphy, and lion dance drumming. Each drum bears a different term, like rainwater. It's like a living calendar of Chinese heritage.
One of the team's founding members is Feng Li Xian, its first captain. He began drumming at age 9 in Malaysia and now continues that journey in China.
This is a cultural homecoming. The 24 festive drums have started in Malaysia, but they're deeply rooted in Chinese traditions. The drums sound like a heartbeat, echoing through the hearts of Chinese communities worldwide.
The man who helped spark the global echo is poet and cultural advocate Tan Chai Puan, who co-founded the 24 festive drums in 1988.
I call the 24 festive drums Eastern rock music. It's traditional, but young people think it's cool. It's got power, energy, and style. Drumming brings them closer to traditional culture. They discover the deeper Chinese philosophy of harmony between man and nature.
In 2009, Malaysia recognized the 24 festive drums as a national intangible cultural heritage. For Tan, that recognition isn't just about preserving the past, it's about forging connections for the future.
Drummers are a global family. Whether they're Chinese, Malay, or African, they find joy and identity in drumming. This shows ancient traditions aren't fading. They just need new ways to connect with young hearts.
Since Huaqiao University established the first drum team in 1997, the 24 festive drums have spread across China. Today, there are more than 100 teams nationwide driven by passionate young people. Someone who's watched this return across generations is Professor Ki Kai Koi. He's a professor of medicine at Tsinghua and one of the key figures behind this team's founding.
To me, it represents a living Chinese heritage passed down across generations, transcending time and place. It's a bond of culture that runs deep, like blood ties connecting us all.
He believes the rise of this art form in China reflects the deepening cultural and economic exchanges between China and Malaysia.
Beyond the drums, we're also seeing growing collaborations in higher education and research, as well as trade and business. I believe more Malaysian art forms will come to China, and Chinese culture will keep flowing into Malaysia. This is a living, growing bridge.
From Johor Bahru to Beijing, the rhythm of the 24 festive drums has crossed oceans. It carries not only the spirit of Chinese culture, but the pulse of two nations beating together.
That was Guo Yan reporting. And with that, we end this special edition of The Top Story. I'm Qi Zhi. Thank you for listening.